G'day folks, today we're going to be doing some fun stuff with my main desktop, particularly because it's getting a new motherboard. Now, I'm perfectly fine with everything else that's in my system right now. It actually does what I needed to do, which, obviously that's kind of important for a main desktop. But there's been a big concern with my motherboard where I've recently just checked the temperatures through something like I think it's HW Monitor is the application name. And to put it this way, the motherboard I have is the Gigabyte B450M DS3H, which is a perfectly fine board for an office computer. Not really so much for a gaming computer, shall we say. And the problem with this board is the VRMs do not have heat sinks. Now, let's say you're running something like an Athlon 3000G or a Ryzen 3 3200G, well, you're probably fine. Where the problems rise is when you run something like what I've got, which is a Ryzen 7 2700X. Well, problem with that is you run into a wattage problem, which in turn makes the VRMs run extremely hot. And because they don't have heat sinks, well, under load, you're going to be looking at some pretty hot VRMs. I've seen the temperatures go as high as 96 degrees Celsius. Sorry, my stuff's going off in the background. There's nothing I can really do about that right now. So I figured the best way to go about this is a new motherboard. And I could buy heat sinks and just slap them on the board, but that's just kind of a half-ass solution. That, and I'm on B450, which means that, obviously I'm not really guaranteed a future upgrade path past Ryzen 5000. So suffice it to say, I figured it's prime time to go ahead and upgrade my motherboard to something new, which is where the new motherboard of mine comes into play. And yes, it'll get some people up in arms because it's an Asus motherboard, but I don't really care. This is a Tough Gaming X570 Plus Wi-Fi. Now this is a full ATX motherboard, which actually has heat sinks on the VRMs. There's actually 2 rows of them, which is pretty nice. And it's got PCI Express Gen 4 support for when I get a newer CPU, which of course that's going to come later. But suffice it to say, that's the board I have. And, I didn't really need the Wi-Fi portion of it, but, at least has it. It's pretty nice to have, I suppose. It's a pretty nice board. It's very heavy. And the Wi-Fi antennas are inside the box here. Now, I know it's got a fan down here on the chipset, but really it's not that big of a deal. But I do like that the main PCI Express Gen 4 slot is reinforced. So that's actually really nice that it'll hold a heavier graphics card. And it definitely seems to have at least a couple more fan headers than the B450M DS3H I'm currently using. So that'll be quite nice. The only thing I'm not looking forward to is the deep cool CPU cooler in there. You might not be able to see it too well because it's not lit up, but it's a big Herkin cooler, even bigger than a Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo. So it's a big boy. So I'm probably gonna have to take these 2 things off, which actually might work in my favor because they need to go back on the other board anyway. And the reason is because I've got a Wraith Prism LED cooler that came with my computer when I got it, and obviously that cooler took place. So I'm pretty sure I'm gonna just put the Wraith Prism cooler on here when I reuse it. And I believe I have it sitting over there somewhere on top of that. You can't see it obviously, but it doesn't really matter. My squeaky chair. So yeah, tomorrow we will be ripping this thing out from underneath the desk, and I'm going to see if I can get this thing swapped around. I think the worst that's probably going to happen is I'm just going to have to reactivate Windows because it's a new motherboard. But, what else are you going to do with a new motherboard, really? But hopefully it works, cross my fingers. And we'll do a little bit more blabbing and looking tomorrow when I actually feel more awake and I'm not, obviously dealing with poor lighting. So we'll catch you guys tomorrow, and obviously you'll be there tomorrow instantly thanks to the magic of video editing.
I ought to make these mitts into Christmas presents.
Okay, the big beast is out of the room and I'm ready to start tearing into it. It's kind of dirty, so I'm gonna have to get this thing cleaned up, but then again, that's what happens when it sits underneath the desk in my room. So that CPU cooler is gonna be a heck of a lot of fun to get off, but I guess it's whatever. But all that stuff's gonna have to come off, and I'm hoping that it's just a straight take this out, then redo what needs to be redone on the board, put it all back in, and then basically just plug everything back in. I hope it's gonna be as simple as that. Don't see why it wouldn't be. Shouldn't have to like go behind the case and have to redo a lot of things. It should just be the motherboard today. So I guess we'll get into it. Alright, so there's the old setup, the Gigabyte B450M DS3H. Now, this board has been pretty good, but as you can see, the kind of power delivery that's on this board is not very good for a Ryzen 7 2700X. But, you know, actually the CPU cooler is going to be easier to remove than I thought. It looks like it just uses the standard AM4 mounting brackets. I didn't actually see that when I was inside the case, and I've never actually took the motherboard out. So that's actually quite nice. And then of course, as you might be able to see, it's got a big fan on it. I actually think that's 120 millimeters. So either way, all this RAM's gonna have to come out. So I might as well loosen all the little latches here. And then I gotta get my NVMe SSD boot drive out. And I'm also going to take note of the memory speeds while I have it out, because that's going to be kind of important. It's not exactly the same make, but it's whatever. Let's see, this kit's rated for 3200 megahertz, this Corsair stuff. And I think this HyperX Predator, isn't it also rated for 3200 megahertz? I don't know. It's probably not. Somebody's probably going to correct me, and that's okay, because I can't really read the timings. Either way, it gives me 32 gigs of DDR4. So now at this point, it's just getting that SSD off the motherboard. And luckily the motherboard comes with its own M.2 like little standoff and screw. So that's pretty nice. There we are. Good old WD Black SN750. These are kick-ass drives. These are so fast and they're very awesome to have. So I want to get a 1 terabyte version of these. I have one on my laptop and it's so awesome for an NVMe drive, that is, because these actually have like a little cache on them somewhere within all this stuff, and it just makes them an excellent drive for the money. We'll see about long-term reliability. So now it's just time to get this big deep cool CPU cooler off. It should just be a matter of just releasing the clip there and then taking it off, and then we'll get a look at that Ryzen 7 2700X. Okay, I just set you guys on top of the case. Let's just see how well this goes. Not sure, but just like that. All right, plug this. Whoop, that popped off. Unplug CPU fan. Set you off to the side, and there we have it. The wonderful little CPU itself. Let me get some paper towel and clean that off.
There we go. Ryzen 7 2700X. Heck yeah, baby.
This has been a wonderful chip. They really went overkill on the thermal paste, because it kind of went over the side there, but no big deal. So there we go. Let's set that off to the side carefully. Now, as far as this board is concerned, I am planning on reusing it. I want to put it into a basically like a little budget system, because I've got a graphics card, a Radeon R9 380, that I'd like to be able to reuse. And basically, I want to put an APU inside the system. It does have video output ports, so it's got DVI and HDMI. And I'm not really looking for, like in the case of this system, it's got USB 3.2 on it. So, you know, I could have that and USB-C. But honestly, as long as it has HDMI out, I'm cool with that. And actually having the onboard DVI is really sweet, because I can connect it to older monitors, for example. And it's got the compatibility I need for what I want to run. So, you know, hey, it's almost a no-brainer. So, you know, it is what it is. Okay, so let's go ahead and start unpacking the new board. Now, since this is the Wi-Fi version of the Tough Gaming X570 Plus, I do have a included wireless antenna. Now, I don't think I'm probably going to really use this, so it might just stay in the box for now, but I am going to take it out just to show that it does exist. And then here is the motherboard itself. I gotta get the IO shield out of the case too, come to think of it. And then underneath this tray, there's a lot of stuff actually. There's our new IO shield. This has only Wi-Fi 5 built in, but hey, that's a far cry better than my other board, which did not have any Wi-Fi built into it, so, you know, it's whatever. If I wanted Wi-Fi 6, which I don't have currently, my newest router is AC, so that would be perfectly fine. But if I did, I'd just use a PCI Express card. So yeah, 2 SATA cables. I'm not going to need that, but it's nice to have. I am going to probably I'm going to use this little M.2 screw, and I'll just keep the old screw with the old motherboard. And then all the other guff. There is a couple of stickers that come with the board, which is quite nice. Actually, I'll get a little bit of a close-up look at them there. I don't know, maybe I'll throw one of them on the case or something. And then everybody's favorite way of installing drivers is the DVD. Ooh. But I'm not using that because I don't actually have a DVD drive in my main desktop. As much as I want to, right now the case that I have does not exactly allow for an optical drive. So, you know, it is what it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this separator back in so we have some structural rigidity in the box. And then doing this one-handed, of course, while hanging onto the board is such a good idea, you know. Then soon we can take that out and get a closer look at it. There we have it. I do like all the accents of basically orange on this board. I'll actually get you guys in for a closer look. You've probably seen a board like this before and you're probably like, yawn, but it's not very often I get to look at new stuff like this, at least not at the moment. I have a feeling all of that's going to light up. That might actually look pretty cool. Same thing with that over there. Little accent lights. So there's the socket, AM4, there's the RAM. Actually, where does it put the labels for which RAMs are what? Okay, looks like it does. So it's basically, yeah, that's what I thought it was. Okay. So how many fan headers on here? So I've got CPU fan and CPU opt, which probably means that it could be designed for 2 fans on like the heatsink. There's another fan over here. There's an AIO pump controller, and then there's a spot for a TPM if you needed it. Let's see, audio. Looks like a debug header. There's another fan header, 2 USB 2 headers, another fan header, thankfully. 4 SATA ports here, 4 SATA ports over there, front panel headers. Looks like a RGB header, which I'm probably not going to use, to be honest. And then that's like some kind of EATX thingamajig. Nice thing is it's got some diagnostic LEDs for the boot up process. So VGA, CPU, and DRAM right there. Doesn't have onboard buttons to turn it on and reset it, but you know, it is what it is. It's certainly a far cry better than nothing. It's certainly better than that B450 board over there, which didn't have any of that functionality, to be fair. And then I think I'm going to need to swap this over to this because of the heatsink. I do want to have this protected via heatsink. So, I don't know. I'll get that off. Where's my screwdriver? Oh, there it is. So I guess we'll see just what it's like underneath here. Let's see what kind of thermal pad situation we're looking at. Okay, fresh thermal pad it looks like, so I just need to get the little standoff out of here. And I'll put both standoffs on the motherboard because why not? So I'm going to put this SSD on this heatsink here, so that way it has the thermal protection because it is definitely going to use it. And then, I don't know, maybe up in the future I might put an extra drive up there, although we'll see. Because I don't know if I'll be able to actually like take this little thing off that's in the board. It looks like it's just kind of like there for use with this heatsink. Kind of an interesting design choice, if I do say so myself, but anyways. Okay, so now I got the heatsink installed on the SSD. So let's go ahead and get the CPU inside of the socket. Make sure that the triangle faces the triangle. There we go. Make sure that's in there. It is. Okay, cool. Very nice. And then I'll just continue cleaning off that stuff that's left. Why not? Because of course, let's have nothing stay where it needs to stay because that's just too easy. Freaking top-heavy tripod pieces of garbage. It's also this table, so you know. E. Okay, that should be fairly clean. Get that RAM up off the floor because it decided to nope out of here. And then I've got a whole new thing of TM30. Not the best stuff, but I wasn't gonna go get like XTM40 or whatever it was. I don't even think they had it in stock when I went. So it doesn't really matter. I've been using this stuff for quite a little while. It's actually fairly consistent thermal paste. It's actually pretty good stuff in my eyes anyway. So let me get this applied. It was a little bit of a messy job, but you can't really tell because I had to, you know, clean in here. I'm gonna have to try to see if I can clean up some more. Now the fan was previously routed like this, which I didn't quite like, so I just rerouted it the other way to hopefully reduce some of the tension on the wires. And it's gonna dangle down there a little bit, but honestly it's not that big of a deal. Okay, there we go. So the CPU is now installed. Now I need to get the RAM. So that should be all we have to do on the motherboard side of things to prep it to get it ready to go into the case. So I'll get this old IO shield out and get the new one in, you know, this one here, and reassemble, basically. So now the fun part begins. These inside this grommet here, this is really sweaty. So these inside this grommet here are basically not going to allow this motherboard to clear because obviously it needs to have room down there. So the fun part is I get to reroute all these either out there or out here. Not looking forward to that. Okay, we're finally done. GPU's in, all the other stuff's connected. So hopefully, I should just be able to power this thing on and have it work. Cross my fingers, I hope. This thing's definitely gonna need to have a cleaning, that is for sure. Lots of dust has accumulated. I'll come to that later. Okay, it's back to where it was before, so excuse the mess on my desk because this is all of a sudden, so it is what it is. Let's go ahead, lay down here, flip the power switch on. Oh wow, that's kind of cool. Don't know if I'd like it at night though. I wonder if that's something you can turn off. But I suppose that's something to let you know that it's on. So, without further ado, I got the power light correct. It's doing its little self-test. I got white light. It's probably gonna go through memory testing first. Should come up with the typical ASUS new CPU installed screen if it's all successful.
Give it a moment. It's probably still testing stuff down there. Yep, looks like still testing stuff.
So, hey, let's go. Let's go. Sweet. New CPU installed. Oh, my voice cracked. Ryzen 7 2700X still shows up. Very nice, very nice. Okay, we'll into the setup. All right, and we're in. Very nice. All the memory profiles are all kinds of whack, so I'm gonna have to tweak around the settings. But on the bright side, it looks like the fan control is actually not too bad, but I'm gonna tweak that because I don't need it to be extremely loud when it gets to 70 degrees. That seems a bit excessive. At least it sees my Windows install on the M.2 drive, so that's good. And mouse works. Currently the CPU is sitting at nice 28 degrees and 23 degrees on the motherboard. It sees my 4,000 gigabyte or 4 terabyte, however you want to say it, hard drive. I don't know what kind of profile it would set. It says DDR4 3200 megahertz. Wonder which stick. I think it's the Corsair stuff that it sees the DOCP on. I'm gonna play around with this. Okay, I've gone through the BIOS settings, so hopefully I didn't mess something up. The RAM is running at 3200 megahertz, which is pretty kick-ass, so let's see if it's stable. Let's go and save changes and reset. You can see I've gone through and enabled quite a bit of things. So let's see if I break it. I hope I don't.
Windows is going to absolutely crap its pants, but it's all AMD stuff like before, so it shouldn't be too drastically different. It just needs to reinstall drivers.
Let's find out. Oh, see the keyboard lit up. No blue screen. Hey, very nice. Very nice. We might just have ourselves a fairly easy setup process. Well, other than the whole installation of the case, but that's whatever. Is my hard drive light actually working? No, it does not appear to be. That's okay. I can fix that later. I probably have the connectors all flip-flopped or whatever inside the case on the motherboard. Luckily, they're right there at the front, so it's not a big deal. And friggin' sweet, just like that, we are in Windows. Download Armory Crate app. Would you like to download and install the Armory Crate app? It is an ASUS service for device configuration, including Aura Sync. I should probably get that. That would not make the worst idea. You've been signed out of Skype. Oh, no. But yeah, I should probably do that. I'll just click yes for now. Looks like Ethernet's already up and running. What's down here? Oh, okay, so that's the little installer process. Microsoft account problem. I knew that was probably going to happen because that's probably because I changed devices. It's probably not activated. I'm going to have to fix that. Yep, it's not activated. Fortunately, that's not, oops, that's the wrong option. Fortunately, it's not that big of a deal to reactivate Windows. I have I have a way that I can transfer the license over. So yeah, Windows reported that the hardware of your device has changed. So I should just be able to click troubleshoot, swap the license over, and be back up and running. Okay, I've stress tested this machine overnight and it seems to be stable. It's now the next day, and I did review in my footage that I forgot to plug in the exterior fan there. Yeah, good thing I did. But it may be due for replacement too, because it was exhibiting some sounds of bad bearing noise, which is kind of annoying. So, you know, pushing it in, like kind of just playing with it when it was on, got it to go away. But I can guarantee you that fan's probably on borrowed time and might be just in best practice anyway to replace all the fans anyway so that they match. But also, maybe in the future, I might just end up swapping out cases entirely. I'm really not a fan of this case, like as it sits. It's kind of cheap. You know, typical thermal take cases, they're kind of not the best. And I thought some of the rattling was caused by this clear plastic. So I actually like electric, I'm trying to think of it, yeah. The tape, you know, electric tape. I can't think of the term off the top of my head right now. Like, I went out and I mowed the yard today, and like, you know, I'm just, anyways. So, point being, it's stable, and the CPU is definitely operating a little better now than I've got that fan connected, and it seems to be all happy, hunky-dory. And, you know, now the only limiting thing is just my internet connection, since as you can see, it really just, it can't even keep up with anything. That's like peak performance when nobody else is using the internet. Maybe, you know, something else using it. I don't know. It's not very fast. That's about 5 megabits per second for those wondering. So it's still a pain in the butt to try to get things done, but it is what it is. So with that having been said, I'm going to wrap this video up since that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about for this one. I may or may not use the system as a gopher in the future for like graphics card reviews. There are some that I'd like to actually test, and the system would be perfect for that, because obviously the CPU is not going to be a limiting factor. And luckily, I think this motherboard should be compliant enough that everything that I stick in here should be all happy and hunky-dory. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. But that'll be for another day. So until then, that's it for now. So hopefully you like what you saw. And if you did, well, then you know what to press. If you didn't like it so much, well, then you also know what to press. Get subscribed down below. Click the bell so you don't miss when I upload new videos. And then, well, once again, thank you very much for watching. And I'll see you all later.